We know that it's a softened, more friendly Beijing. I've never seen Xi Jinping smile so much before the last few months, right? This is kind of the economic necessity driving the relationship now.
I think the Chinese government was, even from the middle of last year, the Chinese government was looking to turn down the temperature on quite a lot of different diplomatic disputes. You saw that with Australia, which has taken 18 months now to sort of come to fruition. You saw that with the US, which was kind of derailed by the balloon earlier this year. But there was a clear attempt by Beijing to turn down the temperature on a bunch of problems. I think the EU, the issues that the EU and China have is one of those areas where China is trying to make an attempt to improve relations. But the reality is that on the real issues that the EU has with China, there was really no progress at all on that from what we can see from this meeting. The biggest issue that is obviously Ukraine, and there's going to be no change on China's attitude on the war in Ukraine and on Russia. On economic ties as well, China is not going to really open up its economy to European companies in the way that the European wants. There is going to be no reciprocity to the open European economy from China. So on a number of issues, yes, it's a friendly sort of fate. But it's almost impossible to imagine that there is going to be real sort of substantial change in the way that the European leaders were asking for when they were here yesterday.
Yeah, James, to hear the word trust being bandied around, it doesn't strike me as something that's ever achievable, at least not in the very near future, between these parties. And it's not like the bloc really speaks with one voice either, right? There are plenty of countries in the bloc that have their own sort of ideas about what the relationship should be. So what will it look like in a couple of years' time? Will she have some kind of an influence over the probe into EV subsidies, for example? And will Europe get something out of it for its part?
I really think on the things like EV subsidies is a question for what Europe decides it wants to do and what Europe decides it can do. Chinese complaints about the EV subsidies probe, Chinese complaints about protectionist attitudes of Europe are completely hypocritical. China is in the process of creating a self-sufficient domestic economy on all of the high-tech sector. China is in the process of restricting other countries' firms from participating in large sectors of its economy. Foreign firms couldn't sell cars that had batteries or were made by foreign firms couldn't be sold with subsidies in China. That was a fact. So the fact that now the Chinese are saying, oh, you can't subsidize your manufacturers in your market, like the US is doing with the IRA, is completely hypocritical. But the Chinese come out and complain about these things. So the question is, and I don't think you're really going to see a change in that. The Chinese government has been very clear that they want to have a self-sufficient industrial economy that doesn't rely on Europe or on America for critical inputs like semiconductors, and they're not going to change that strategy. So the question is not, will we see a friendly, China opening up their markets substantially? The question is, what is Europe going to do about that? How is Europe going to deal with that? And what changes can Europe make to strengthen its own economy?